Welcome to r/Malicious Compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: rude guy tried to sound smart but screwed up, then lost his ingenious plan and money. The second story: grandpa discovered the county built a ditch in the wrong location on his land, gave them the choice. The third story: restaurant manager refuses to take my credit card because it's not me in the photo. Got free meal. And the first story is: neckbeard tries to buy inferior parts to keep money for the build. Malicious compliance intervenes. Now, some people believe the customer is always right. This is a problematic belief. The truth is, most of the time the customer is an entitled T, but you're supposed to perform admirably anyway. This gets harder when you're dealing with anyone who thinks they know something that they do not. So a guy comes into my department and I greet him at the carpet. I tended to be Johnny on the spot whenever someone came in. "Welcome to our build your own department. I'm Anonymous. What are we putting together today?" The man scoffs at me and says, "A computer, obviously." All attitude. He was neckbeard wearing a My Chemical Romance shirt, pants so tight that he had a mushroom top, and mismatched shoes. This was obviously on purpose, as both shoes were clean, just didn't fit his look. I didn't take much time. Examining him, my dad had always told me I gotta get the measure of a man with a glance and look him in the eye the whole time. He literally used Testis on this crap. Turn, look, then tell him what cars we saw in that split second. I was decent enough at it, but not great. I instead would tell myself little lyrics on the fly to remember key details. It's become a life habit. I explain this to point out that I wasn't staring at his look, so I'm pretty sure the snickering hens in the general section, who didn't work for us, were the source of his ire about being judged about his look. He took my smile as me thinking something was funny. I feigned ignorance, like I didn't hear him, and then when he asked again, I apologized and asked him to speak louder. Told him I was hard of hearing. This relaxed him a bit, thinking I couldn't possibly have heard the hens giving him the business. I did, but I wasn't gonna show it. With an attitude, he handed me a list and leaned forward shouting, "I don't want to be sold nothing. Here's what I need, go get it." I look at the list and it's pretty thorough. Names of items and SKU numbers. I'm like, bet, this looks like a full build. Good money, though a lot of them I identify as cheaper parts. I tell him it'll take me a few minutes and invite him to take a look around in case he sees anything else he might need. He rudely says he'll wait there, and he ain't buying SHLs, so don't try none of my snake oil salesman crap. I smiled and say, "Oh no, but it's so good for the joint and muscles." He didn't think it was funny, so I just walked away and got his stuff. Halfway through grabbing his items, I realized that he only looked at prices and not what each thing did. His build had an AMD processor, but he wanted an Intel board. The case he wanted was slim, and the video card he wanted would not fit. He needed lower profile, though the Intel board had integrated graphics, so I was sure why he picked a card. Also, the power supply he wanted was of lower quality and wattage than the one that came with the case. All in all, I was compelled to ask what the hell he was trying to build. I gathered everything quickly and brought it up, going over each piece with him and getting his approval. I then asked him if all of this was for the same build, which he replied with something smart like, "Wow, how observant of you," or something like that. I smiled and tried to inform him that some of those parts would not work together, but he simply cut me off. "Listen, I don't need you to try to upsell me. I've been building computers for a while. I know what I'm doing." He did not, and I wanted to question that validity of his claim. I asked him then if he would like to hear about our return policy just in case. He got belligerent, telling me he knows what he's doing, and how dare I treat him like he's stupid just because of the way he looks. Granted, he did look stupid, but I think his ire was more the cute girls giving him SH and some insecurity versus anything I said. "Alrighty, you're not interested in our return policy or our extended warranty policy, right?" I confirmed. We're supposed to ask about the warranties with everyone, but I figured he was not going to take kindly to that, so all I wanted to do was cover my bases. "Warranties are for suckers. Do I look like a sucker?" he snapped. Yes, he did, but I wasn't going to say anything to that. I just smiled at him and asked if I could double check his list to see if I got everything. I whipped out my phone and took a picture of everything, along with the list. I knew most of this was coming back, and let him go about his day. I didn't even sticker it. I knew it was coming. 2 days later, neckbeard shows back up. Muffin top, 2 different pairs of shoes, and an anime shirt that made Goku look like he had a fisheye head. He looked embarrassed and angry. He had with him someone who I at first thought was his girlfriend, a little Latino woman who I was certain was either blind or a gold digger, but turned out to be his sister. Absolutely no resemblance. She was friendly and told me she was trying to build a gaming computer to play Crisis. I was a little incredulous, young, and to be honest, at that time did not think girls played games like that. So I turned to him and said, "Crisis?" and he shrugged. Little lady stepped up and reiterated herself, with a bit of a friendly mocking, because she knew what I was thinking. Apparently she got SH for being a gamer girl. I just shrugged and told the truth. There was no way in hell that previous build was going to play Crisis very well. The brother, who I'm going to call Neckbeard from here on out, had an attitude. He said yeah and handed me another list. This one's similar to before. He made no explanation for his previous mistake and just told me to get the new items, along with the same line about not upselling him. I looked at the list and knew right away that build wasn't going to play that game very well. I mean, I could get him there with a $1,500 build, barely, but this was something like $900. And that video card, don't remember what it was not going to cut it. I told him so, and that maybe he should look at the game's specs online, which would help him make a better decision. He told me he had done his homework, and to just get what he said. I looked at his sister pleading, and told her that I could come up with a system that was both affordable and would run the game decently. He interjected and got mad, threatening to get another salesperson, and said okay, but I knew his A would be back again. As I'm getting his stuff, I hear him away from his sister on the phone. He's telling someone that he wants to finish this up and get the build done. Apparently his parents had allocated some money for this, and he was trying to get a cheap system so he could keep the rest of the money. A real D-bag move, but not my problem. I gathered what he asked for and sent them on their way. Didn't tag this stuff either. It was either coming back or could go to the pool. I saw Neckbeard 2 days later with his little sister in tow and his parents. He was not dressed like a disaster that day. His parents did all the talking. There was no list. They told me that they'd trusted their son to get this done because he was good with computers, but the game wasn't working properly, and they were trying to get everything together for their daughter's birthday, which had apparently passed after the first time I met Neckbeard. The parents then told me they only had $3,000 to spend on this computer. They'd looked up the average price of high-end gaming rigs and wanted to buy an Alienware, but were convinced by their son to build it themselves, possibly so he can control what they spent. $3,000? This man was trying to snake his parents out of like $2,000 with these SH builds. They told me to put together something that would work, and I smiled at Neckbeard and said, with a $3,000 limit? They confirmed and I grinned. Cue malicious compliance. I tell them I can definitely do that, and ask if they want to come with me and discuss each part piece by piece, and why I think they need it for the game. I go with them and I build a $3,000 system. Neckbeard is losing his SH. Why do we need this? Why do we need that? But no one will listen to him because of his previous failures. I built a system that I'd be proud to own, and it got it to around $2,700, and then explained the warranty and how they could have us build it, and have parts and labor on that warranty. Of course, they took it. Neckbeard was peeved because we went a little over, and I even talked his parents into getting a Boss A monitor for the game. These I certainly stickered. If Neckbeard hadn't been such a D, I'd have built him a system that could play the game and he would have been able to go about his fiendish plan and keep his parents' change. Instead, he got nothing, and his sister got a build that she loved, and a case that she apparently always wanted. A white Antec with purple fans. Moral of the story is, don't be a D to your salesman. Tell them what you want and need, and they will accommodate most times. Or at the very least, know what the heck you're doing. If he'd known computers like he'd claimed, this wouldn't have been an issue. Either way, I'm glad things didn't work out for him. And this time, there were no returns. The next story is, can't build a bridge across the supply ditch? Move your supply ditch. The backstory. My grandfather owned some 14 acres of land. There was a state-owned water supply ditch running between the top half and bottom half of this acreage. To use official roads to get from the top half to the bottom half required a 5-mile detour that Gramps had had enough with. The history. A neighbor had been granted the appropriate permits and everything required to build a bridge across this supply ditch a half-mile or so up the ditch. A neighbor of his was disgruntled with the bridge, hooked up some chains to his tractor, and pulled that sucker down right into the supply ditch. The state or county banned building bridges across the supply ditch because of this A-hat and the debris that was dropped into the supply ditch. The compliance. He'd had enough driving 10 minutes around to get his other plot of land and decided he wanted to build this bridge. Upon learning of the prohibition of bridges across the ditch, he took it upon himself to resurvey his land and the rights granted to the state for the supply ditch to bisect his property. It turned out the state built this ditch just 20 feet away from the actual right-of-way that was granted to them for the ditch. He got into a lengthy fight over it with the water board, and it finally came down to an ultimatum. Let me build my bridge or move your supply ditch to the proper location. Ultimately, he won this battle, and that summer began construction of the abutments and purchased a railroad car, which was cut in half, and the halves placed side by side across the abutments in the supply ditch. I still remember going out to his farm that summer and sandblasting those railroad cars, and then painting it with a special paint to prolong the life of the bridge. The epilogue. Years after the bridge was built, the land above the ditch was subdivided and placed in an HOA, the bridge being the property of said HOA. Parcels of the subdivided land were sold off and people moved in and built homes in this HOA. These fools couldn't be aided to meet once a year, have an official minutes of this meeting, and pay a minimal amount to keep the HOA running and the bridge under their control. Dad and I went out there to try and fix it up after they let this SH lapse and got everything reinstated. Everything is hunky-dory again, and these morons are warned that we're not traveling halfway across the country again to fix their F-up. What did they do? They let that SH lapse again. The HOA is dissolved, and as far as we know, the bridge now belongs to the county who can open it up for public use, so everybody above the ditch can make use of it instead of driving 5 miles around to get to the main highway. The last story is, we're all malicious compliancers on this blessed day. A guy I know, we both work in emergency services and public safety, was at a restaurant with his family. He racked up a $100 plus bill. Waitress brings the bill. He puts his credit card in the receipt thing, hands it to her. She comes back a few minutes later, tells him she can't charge the meal to that card because he doesn't look like the picture on the credit card. Well, that's true. He had lost 150 pounds in the preceding 2 years. Oh, that's me. I used to be fat. I'm sorry, sir, you don't look like the picture. My manager won't let me run the card. Well, I don't carry that much cash, and that's my only credit card, so what do you want to do? I don't know, sir, but I can't charge this card if you don't match the picture. Well, kids, you heard the lady. Free meal. Manager comes out. Sir, you're gonna have to find another way to pay for the check. There isn't another way. I gave you my card, you refused to charge it, so it's your problem now. Well, if you leave, I'll have to call the police. 10 minutes later. Cop. Oh, hey Josh, what's up? Josh works public safety. He personally knows all the local cops. Josh, they won't take my card because it has my fat picture on it. Cop trying very hard not to laugh. Yes ma'am, I can vouch for him. He's the same person as that extremely fat picture on the card. Manager, I can't charge the card if the picture doesn't match. Cop, so he's tried to pay, and I've confirmed he is who he says he is, and that picture on the card is him, and you won't run the card? Manager, I'm not allowed to, no. Cop, well, Josh, you heard the lady. Free meal. Josh and the cop then proceeded to stand in the parking lot for another 20 minutes laughing and talking, while the manager glared out the door from behind the hostess stand. I often would ask him if he had been back to the restaurant. He said he got a new card recently, with no picture at all, and he did go back, just he and his wife. Different waitress, never saw the manager, ate, paid, left. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.